Here we are in Texas, more specifically, 414 St. Joseph Street, Gonzales, Texas. And why are we here? Well, they have the Gonzales County Courthouse. And in my opinion, the narrative is lying. Are we all ready? Here we go. The contract was awarded to Furman Morin on June 26, 1894. But wait, there's something weird going on here. We're told that this wasn't the first courthouse on this site. This is the second building to serve as the county courthouse. Well, what do you mean this wasn't the first one? What happened to the first one? The first Gonzales County Courthouse burned down on December 3rd, 1893. Do you notice how fast they tried to throw that in there? It was like they thought we wouldn't notice or something. Of course we will. This is what we do. Look at how they worded it, too. They didn't even say the first building or the first courthouse. They just quickly say, the first burned on December 3rd, 1893. And they just want to move on like nothing happened. So we get the nod. Another fire story. Very interesting. And also the clear giveaway that this is a building from the past civilization. In my opinion, and a reminder that there was never a fire here on this site. This is simply a nod to their group that this building is from the old world. Now, let's continue shredding this nonsense apart. We are told that the second county courthouse was completed on April of 1896. The contract was awarded in June of 1894. They get their superintendent for the construction in 1895. And then in April of 1896, the building is done. And this all happens in basically 2 years after the first one burned down. And it's weird, because it takes almost as much time to find the superintendent as it does to actually build the entire building. And it lasts forever. So let's get this straight. They are telling us that December 1893, the first one is in flames, and we have no idea who built that one or anything about it. And don't ask any questions about that one. And then 6 months later, it's gone and all cleaned up by June of 1894. And the contract is ready to roll. And from June 1894, we wait until some point in time in 1895, so at least 6 months, but could have been 18 months. Since they don't share the information, we have to speculate. So let's meet in the middle at 12 months to find a construction guy. And then he knocks this thing out somehow by April of 1896. Who believes that he did this in less than a year? How many people worked for him? It's just weird that they tell us that he was just an owner of a quarry that had limestone in it. Now all of a sudden, he is a construction superintendent guy that builds massive courthouses in a year. Wow, the 1800s were incredible. You could truly be anything you want back then. Amazing. And a total joke of a story. This is absolute insanity that this kind of stuff is what we are supposed to believe actually happened. We all understand that in order to build a massive courthouse, you would need to get all the materials there. We would need to have a proper amount of construction workers that are properly trained. This quarry owner can't just go build it himself. We would need the proper equipment. Incredible architecture. The planning had to be perfect. Using the specs that they give us on this courthouse, I asked Chat GPT a question, and the answer was eye-opening. I asked hypothetically, how long would it take to build a courthouse in 1895? And how many men would you need? I asked if it could give me a breakdown of how much material would be needed, and also include other details that are important in constructing a courthouse that covers 2.7 acres. I explained that it is a building in a Romanesque revival style with eclectic details, meaning it covers other types of architecture designs, and that it will be built with red brick and white limestone trim. Now, these are the specs that we are given from the mainstream narrative. This is what they tell us. They tell us this information because they have to. The thing is literally sitting here looking right at us. For anyone that wants to go look at it, you can walk right up to it and see it, or you can see a picture of it as we are right now. So let's see what this AI tells us. We are told that constructing a courthouse in 1895 in the specs that they stated would have been a significant undertaking. And here is the breakdown. Just the design and planning would have taken pretty much a year. Just because it's 1895, you still need permits and approvals. This happened in 1895. This isn't cavemen days, where you just get to build massive buildings and not tell anyone about it. So the fact that they're ignoring this part of the story over and over is crazy. This would have taken another couple months. So then we move on to the materials. We are told that the amount of red brick needed would depend on the design and size of the courthouse. Courthouses that cover 2.7 acres could use hundreds of thousands to millions of bricks. This is an unbelievable amount of material just for bricks alone. The process in getting these materials to the site is not easy. So then the white limestone trim. 100,000 cubic feet of limestone. The wood for interior elements, including flooring, stairs, and doors. A substantial amount of wood would be required. Then we will need steel and glass, and not just any glass. They have to be perfect for windows, in the Romanesque Revival style. Now, of course, the best part, in my opinion, because they don't even mention any people that help this quarry owner guy. The labor, the number of workers needed would vary. But constructing such a massive courthouse might require hundreds of laborers. Hundreds? And not a mention of one in this story? And this isn't even to build it in a year. This is just saying to build it in a respectable timeline. So to build it in a year, there had to be way more than hundreds of workers, like we're told. Amazing. Okay, you would need bricklayers, carpenters, masons. Oh, did I say that? Steelworkers, and general laborers. When we are told that slaves and prisoners built these places in a year, just remember this and ask yourself if you think this is true or not. Now we have the construction time. Given the scale and complexity, construction could take several years, perhaps 3 to 5 years. The Romanesque Revival style, with its ornate details, would require careful craftsmanship, which takes time. So these workers had to have been trained and been good at it, especially finishing it in a year. This is insane. How were these workers not world-renowned? Wouldn't there be statues of them? They probably could have made the statues themselves in their backyards in a couple of days, since they were so good at it. And now, of course, we have the ridiculous part of the transportation. Transporting materials to the construction site. And before we get into this, I want to mention this, that they don't mention this in the story. And I think they don't on purpose, because it is so insane. Here we go. Transporting materials to the construction site would require horses, wagons, and likely a nearby source of limestone. Okay, so the horses and wagons moved the 100,000 cubic feet of limestone from the quarry. What a joke. Now they will need tools, of course. You can't do this without tools. So here's the tools and equipment section. Tools of the time would include hammers, chisels, saws, cranes, and various other hand tools. Just hammering and chiseling away in 1895 to 1896 with their horses and wagons. The fact that they tell us these buildings go up all over the world in a year is such a lie, in my opinion. You'd need a source of water for mixing mortar, and for the workers. If it's a large project, which this one definitely is, you might even need on-site housing for the workers, which they don't have on-site housing for the workers. Have you ever seen a narrative say this? No. They ignore the actual logistics in every narrative. You need people to build these places, and people need things, such as housing, food, water. This is common sense, yet never mentioned. Stone carvers and artisans would be required for this work. What was their names? Did the quarry owner do that himself? No. Which company had pro stone carvers and artisans? And of course, supervision. You'd need a skilled supervisor and project managers to ensure the work proceeds smoothly and to quality standards. And this is literally the only part that we are given. The only part we are given is the person that should be watching over all of the things that actually have to happen. I'm going to put this in sports terms. They're basically telling us the name of the coach for the Patriots, and then forgetting to tell us all about Tom Brady, or the coach's name of the Lakers and the Bulls, and not saying anything about Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan, or Dennis Rodman. All we get is Phil Jackson and Frank Vogel. This is insane. This is not working anymore. So I asked it to be more specific with the timeline. I said, so in all, how long would this all take? It responded with this. Given the complexity and scale of constructing a courthouse, covering 2.7 acres in the Romanesque Revival style, with red brick and white limestone trim, in 1895, the entire process could take 1 year to just design and plan it. Another several months to permitting and approvals, several more months to a year for the materials, and 3 to 5 years to build the building. So in total, it mathematically and logistically should take anywhere from 4.5 years to 7.5 years. This is unbelievable, considering so many times we are told that a building goes down in a fire and then another one is built in a few months. This kind of brushing it off with a few months kind of thing isn't working anymore. And I don't want to end the episode yet. I want to go even deeper and even more specific. So I asked, how many horses would they need for this project? And here we go. The horses would be needed for 6 major things in this project in 1895. Transporting, milling and lifting, general labor, site grading and excavation, water and power, cranes and heavy lifting, and getting the cranes there to the site, of course. This would take 20 to 30 horses to finish the project in 4.5 to 7.5 years, not 1 year. So we all understand. They would need way more than 30 horses, and we all understand that horses need water. Remember, this is for 30 horses for possibly 7.5 years. I want to make that point extremely clear. This is not the 1 year timeline that we're told. Now here we go. Let's absolutely destroy the narrative and end it forever. That any building anywhere in the world, like this one, could not be simply built in a year and just brushed off with zero explanation. How much water would the horses actually need? This is a key point that cannot be ignored, like it is in the mainstream narrative. A typical horse would drink anywhere from 5 to 15 gallons of water per day for a project like this. This is to properly keep the horses hydrated, or they will die, especially in Texas, where it's extremely hot in the summer months. For only 30 horses, you would need 300 gallons of water per day. This is only 10 horses over 7.5 years. Where is all this water coming from? Why is this massive point ignored? The point alone proves that this project did not happen in a year. This is such a horrible slip up for the narrative. And it is the most important part of the logistic project that needs to be taken care of. Without the water supply for the main transportation for the project, none of this happens anywhere in the world in the 1800s. From this point on, a narrative that tells us that they built a building in a year in the 1800s without explaining the massive supply of water for the horses should be looked at as a lie. Incredible. This is a major failure by the narrator, a massive flaw that now opens the floodgates. This narrative is not possible. Did they think that we would never question this? And now we know that this type of construction is not even close to possible. We are waking up to the nonsense. We are educating each other, building a group of people that are not just accepting lies and actually questioning. We are looking into things, and the more we look, the easier it gets. The more answers we find, and the more truth comes through. And the more that we know, the harder and harder it is to lie to us. Once you know the truth, like I always say, you don't go back to not knowing. You are now awake, and you will take this information with you and apply it to the next story, where they will tell you that a building was built in a year by a quarry owner that never built anything before and never again in his entire life. Welcome to Vienna, Austria, where we have the St. Charles Church. We have shown that in the 1700s, humans didn't even have toilet paper, using the good old trusty hand. This was the mindset in the 1700s, we are told. And then we all get this, a palace. And today, we are going to expose its narrative to the world. A narrative that we have all blindly accepted for so many years. Until now. In 1713, this hand-wiping civilization just had so many palace masterminds that they had to hold an architectural competition because they just couldn't decide which one of these outhouse living, donkey riding master architects to pick from. There were just so many of them that they needed to hold a competition, if you can believe it. They find their winner in 1716. The wagons would get the stone and the marble right to the site. Not only this, but in 1713, Vienna, Austria only had a population of about 100 to 150,000 people. Beginning this palace construction, the exact same year, 1713, that Vienna was hit with the devastating plague, reducing the population dramatically. This was, of course, no problem for the mainstream narrative. Plague or no plague, only 150,000 people. This palace was going to get done. Oh, and remember, half of the 150,000 people, they're children. So they're not building anything. Vienna, Austria, they were determined to hold a palace building competition. And the palace would be here forever. The fact that these stories worldwide were never questioned until now is extremely alarming. 75,000 adults at the time. We're realistically looking at around 30,000 individuals that would be eligible for this supposed mastermind competition, considering all factors, age and the rest. Living in sheds, no power tools, no light bulbs, and working by moonlight. Was everybody just born with palace architecture skills? No. And they couldn't just build themselves a bathroom. It's not adding up. Do you know a single person today that holds the knowledge to construct this? I don't know anybody that can construct this today. In 2024, I've personally talked to so many architects at this point. Not one time do they agree with the mainstream narrative. So Johann wins. We are told in the middle of a plague, 1716, they get started. And 7 years later, he dies. And his son, his son completes the construction. Of course he does. Joseph Emanuel Fischer von Erlach, the son, pinned to the completion of this palace. He was born in 1693, we are told, meaning that he was only 23 years old when the project started. Again, nothing against the people that have never trained and have no actual experience and no education. But in order to build a palace, I think that you would probably need to have taken a class or two. You would think. Let me know what you think about that. Developing his skills in his father's shed. At 18 years old, in 1711, he was working on 4 different buildings. So, let's take a look at these buildings. This is the first one, we are told. The Lobkowitz Palace. The Palais Trotzen. I think that the funniest thing would be is to see what these 2 master builders were going home and living in. I wish we had a photo of their house because I know they weren't living in a palace. I'm sure these 2 were riding home on Seabiscuit, waiting to get to their shed. They're also pinned to this court and this palace as well. For anybody new here, these characters that are pinned to these palaces, these stories are just that. We have proven this, in my opinion, through 94 episodes. There was a very powerful, extremely advanced civilization here where we are today. And they were all over the world. They held all of the technology that we have now and so much more. And their structures, their palaces, they sit here looking at us every day. And most of us never questioned it. Until now. A small population with 0 training, no power tools, we are told. A guy and his son, during a plague, knocking out palace after palace, and then riding home on their horse to their shed, freezing in winters. While everybody is dying from the plague, nobody would be focused on building this building. They would be focused on living. This is the narrative that we were all believing. And take a look at this detail, all the way up this thing. Could you even imagine seeing a mistake? I think I'd lose my mind. The chisels of the 1700s were as good as lasers. They were practicing their chiseling skills as a baby. Oh, and did I show you the inside? See anything suspicious? Anything that would give it all away? Any symbols? Let me know. Can we just take a look at this for a second? This is insane. Who else wishes that the basic box style would just go out of style already? Who else wants their town to get a few of these done? We are evolving and advancing, of course, right? We're not? No, we're not. If an 18-year-old could do this in 1700 with no power tools during a plague, we should be able to do it today. You think a college student today could get this done with training and with power tools? I'd love to see one try. If you've seen episode 72, 78, and 92, you will know how important symbolism is. You will also know what is really beneath these structures. You will know that when you see a skull right here in the middle of these two guys, we can only guess as to what is beneath our feet when we walk in there. With more angels, it's just art, of course, and more angels depicted on the ceiling. Again, it's just art, and it's all over this place, all over the walls. Marble angels, organs that have angels on top of it. In my opinion, I don't believe that it's a coincidence that angels are depicted on these palaces all over the world, in every single country. I believe that it's possible that they were here and guided the people of the time, depicting what they knew about the world. I don't believe that this place that we all live is the place that we're all led to believe. After everything that we've seen and know to this point, suggesting this is very basic. It's not a reach at all. If it weren't embedded into the walls, the statues, the paintings, and then confirmed in narratives from local legends that are being suppressed, like we have seen in Lalabella. If this wasn't the case, then I wouldn't suggest it, but it is. And on top of it, the narratives that we are given are ridiculous and aren't logical at all. The structures are insane. They don't look like something a civilization of nobody, going through a plague, riding around on horses and wagons with dirt roads and having no power tools would build. And a very interesting note here is that this palace with the skull in the room is located in the dead center of Austria, the dead center. What have we learned about the dead center? Are you ready to go deeper? We have shown the St. Stephen's Basilica in Vienna, Austria, which is only located 0.68 miles away from the St. Charles Church. And we know that these buildings are connected underground. We know that the St. Stephen's Basilica had become the resting place for thousands of people, telling us that a common practice was to remove the internal organs, the heart, and then bury the individual separately. Can we go back to this picture for a second? Can you tell me what this individual is holding in his hand? Is that a heart? Let me know. These symbols are right in front of us. We all just didn't understand what we were looking at before this research. Just adding in a note here that this individual is wearing gloves. This was a messy project. Again, rows of stacked bones under churches in Vienna, Austria, with guided tours. Get your tickets today. Unbelievable. I believe this is the previous civilization, 100%. I believe it is the group that was here, and they are now underneath our feet. It's very strange. Now check out this place. It definitely gives Budapest and Edinburgh a run for their money. The whole place looks like you're in the old world. I can't even imagine going there and seeing this. Let's check one of these palaces out. Let's do Disney World in Austria. Look at this picture. This is insane. Look at the horses and wagons, the dirt roads, and a palace towering over them. This structure is the city hall. Look at the size of the people. Austria, I think you did it. You might be the most incredible city that I've ever seen to this point. Look at the statues in the front of this place with a clock tower, 30 arches down here at the bottom. And we all know that these buildings are all connected underground, with another design competition being held in the 1860s, we are told. This time, Frederick was the winner. Repeating names yet again. We're told that this was done in just 11 years, when we all know that the Kleksinski building in Chicago, this box, took 14 years, with all of us here to see it, with power tools, from 1960 to 1974. And the architect had some training. Just for a little perspective, this photo is from 1885, we are told, showing the transportation that was available at the time. This donkey riding community is responsible for constructing palaces. Are you sure? Me either. Again, giving us the camera back a little too quick, in my opinion. Constructed from 1872 to 1883, with the City Hall painted around 1860, predating the narrative's construction years by 12 years. This narrative is all over the place. Constructed from 1872 to 1883, we were told. Vienna, Austria, 1855. Now predating the construction date by 17 years. Multiple sources, multiple depictions of this palace being here before its supposed construction date, with a separate source stating that it was built from 1872 to 1883. So you tell me, with horrible news that the entire facade of the Vienna City Hall was already renovated. We know here what restoration or renovation really means. It means destruction of the past, our true history. We have seen where they remove statues and they just throw them into the lawn for 30 years before destroying them. An 11-stage project that began in September 2012. Here were the 11 phases of the destruction. This structure, this palace, it did not need our help. And we all know this here. Now check this out. More confirmation. The City Hall has the following structure from the top to the bottom. The main tower, attic, second floor, first floor, half floor, ground floor, first basement, and a second basement. A sub-basement is exactly what we are reading here. It's unbelievable. Confirmation that there is activity under the structure. Tunnels connecting the buildings yet again. And remember, it says second basement, but we know that there are more. The first basement was opened on February 12th, 1899. Opened in 1899? What? It was closed before this. The artistic design in the basement. What are we reading? The first basement contains numerous rooms, including 2 different halls, with destruction work in 1925, 1952, and 2005, where murals in the basement were changed. Incredible. So you can actually go in here today. And remember, they're not gonna tell you anything about that second basement. They have a restaurant in the first basement now, which, remember, was supposedly constructed from 1872 to 1883. This is what we were told, 11 years. Yet the renovation project was completed, taking over 10 years just to clean the place up. From 2012 to 2023. Can you see very clearly now that something is extremely off about what we've been told? Taking almost as long to clean the place up in 2012 to 2023 versus building the entire structure, all the basements and all of the floors in the 1800s. A structure that spreads over an area of 210,890 square feet, arranged around 7 inner courtyards, a total space of about 1,220,000 square feet, is spread over 3 floors and 2 basements, maybe more, holding 2,987 rooms. Also has a central tower with a height of 322 feet. What an incredible place. And right next door, they're destroying this church and putting a sign out in front, so you can't even see what they're up to. Nice. If you're in the area, I suggest taking a look around now before they continue to restore the whole place into boxes. And you can really go down any road here, and there are structures from the old world. Going back to episode 91, we have more angels depicted all over this thing, with the first mass taking place in 1768, and 12-year-old Wolfgang Mozart was conducting the songs. Of course he did. We just picked any random building, and they said that this is where Wolfgang Mozart started his career. Can you believe it? Then we have the Vienna State Opera. Again, Donkeys Inc. is hard at work. Something that blows my mind, just looking at these pictures, is seeing the donkeys and the wooden wheels with the wagon. And then thinking, what if it rained one day? The dirt roads would be a mess. The wooden wheels on the wagon would never hold all that stone. This would take years to get the stone to the site, and especially in winters. With snow covering the whole place, you're never gonna get a good day to ship the stone. So when we get, it takes 10 years to restore the place, and only 11 to build the whole thing. There are major flaws that we all need to be aware of. Logistics that don't make sense. And this is why I keep saying that I think they gave us the camera back too quick. With more angels depicted up here to the right, inside the building, and painted on the ceiling in this room, and also painted on the ceiling in this room. So it's not just the outside that's incredible. The inside took so much detail, and a group of people, a civilization, that fully understood how to get this done. Oh, and flying horses outside. So clearly, we are not being told the full story about this place that we all live. What did we all miss? Why is it being suppressed? And why do these buildings, these structures and sites, worldwide, why do they hold narratives that are clearly fabricated? Narratives that are impossible to get behind. For example, going back to this area and finding a theater that has architecture from the gods, not fitting in with what we've been told. Again, angels depicted all over it. All of this done with a chisel? Are you sure? Built in 1540, we are told, after the old one fell victim to a fire in 1525. I'm gonna ask, has the mainstream narrative repeated itself too many times to be trusted? I personally believe so. I believe we are finding and exposing its flaws, its keys, multiple times within the same narrative, largely destroyed in a bombing raid by the United States Air Force. And 1 month later, on April 12th, 1945, it was further damaged by a fire of unknown origins. The old world is everywhere, in every country. It's above ground, and like we have shown, it's also below our feet. Paola Malta, the hypogeum, was discovered by accident in 1902 when workers cutting cisterns for new housing development broke through its roof. The workers then tried to hide the underground temple at first, but eventually it was found. During excavations, the previous civilization was found in 1903. Human remains were emptied out and discarded without being properly cataloged. Unbelievable stuff here. Not allowing the public to see the site until 1908. Taking 6 years to remove the old world and anything that would give the mainstream history away. Hiding the truth from all of us is exactly what this is saying. And now that we know how to read these stories and find the truth within them, we can see that they found something else in 1990 when further excavations took place between 1990 and 1993. The hypogeum was then closed to the public for 9 more years, between 1991 and 2000, for destruction work. And since its reopening, the government body only allows 80 people per day to go see this site, and is strictly regulated. And remember, they just found this place in 1902. And now they're telling us that this site is from 6,000 years ago. If you've seen the first 95 episodes, you will know that this date is complete nonsense. It's completely made up, all based on testing the local bush near the site, telling us that they just abandoned it for 4,500 years when settlers just decided that their underground palaces, they just weren't in style anymore. We are told that there was a surface shrine that marked the entrance to the site. Do you think that that was something that was removed during all of those years where we weren't allowed at the site? Archaeological excavations indicate that there was once a shrine. This is insane. They obviously saw that there was a shrine. Could you imagine A few guys that are really great at regurgitating textbooks are all sitting there looking at this place. And one of them just has a vision that there used to be a shrine that marked the entrance to the site. Nothing remains of the potential enclosures that would have marked the entry, but based on a wild guess, there was a shrine there. No, they have that shrine somewhere, and they know that it was there because they removed it. And this is very obvious now. Now, my personal favorite part. How was this thing constructed? Well, they cut directly into the rock with antlers, of course. Just chiseling stone with antlers. Yes, of course, the mainstream history is filled with great stories that are perfect for a baby. Flint, the Flintstones, of course. Sure. Just smashing that little rock and antlers against that wall for years until you finally make a palace underground. 6,000 years ago. This is great. What else can we tell them? An obsidian was used. A glass formed from lava. Yes, the glass will be the perfect tool to hold in your bare hand and just hit repeatedly against that solid rock. Glass in your hand. Amazing what we're told. It's also a joke. Again, the mainstream history has no idea. They are making all of this up. And they tell you right here, where the site may have been. It might have been. Maybe. But will forever be a mystery if it was first used as early as 6,000 years ago. So when the history major tells you, no, we know that was from 6,000 years ago. We tested it, and we are sure of it. We used all the scientific tools of the modern world. When they tell you this, remember that they say that this site might have been first used as early as 4000 BC. It is not confirmed, and it never will be, because it's impossible to confirm that. When they just found the place on accident, like 100 years ago. Blocked it off from all of us for years, only letting 80 of us see it daily today, and giving us this story. We know here that a much more logical explanation for this site is that there was, taking place all over this map, the previous civilization. And this civilization was incredibly advanced. They created underground structures all over the world, and we have shown this. Underneath all of the major cities, within so-called mountains, this is not a once-off. They did not hit the rock with glass. They didn't hit the rock with an antler. They were advanced, constructing underground passageways all over the world. And it wasn't as far back as we're all told, in my opinion. I believe, based on everything that we have seen to this point, that this civilization was here within the last few hundred years, and a mass event took place, taking most of the previous civilization with it, while leaving their structures behind for all of us to see. And to prove this place wasn't just a couple friends making a little cave. The temple was designed with perfection. The temple structure uses careful direction of light from the sun to penetrate into the lower chambers with intricate patterns. One of the main chambers appears to be oriented such that the light from the winter solstice illuminated its facade from the original opening above. These were master designs. They were built with perfection and with a purpose. Everybody needs to remember that they found this place and then blocked it off from all of us immediately. So at that point, we are allowed to have questions. After you block the site off from all of us, everything is up for debate. You can't perform secret investigations, find items from the past, and then tell us that we have to believe you, believing that you aren't withholding any items or information. A broad range of objects were discovered from the site, blocking us off from the initial findings. So they tell us they found some pottery. And don't forget the pottery. I believe the pottery is something that they give us so that we don't dig deeper. Don't forget this, because I'm going to show it again in future episodes. Remember the pottery. They find some beads, some shell buttons, and some carved figures depicting humans and animals. Nothing to see here, of course. Just some buttons and beads and some pottery. Are we all still buying this nonsense? You tell me. It is estimated that the remains of 7,000 individuals were found in the hypogeum. 7,000 individuals were found. And though many of the bones were lost early in the excavation process, most of the skulls, not all of them, but most of them, were deposited at the National Museum. 7,000 individuals from the old world were discovered inside this underground complex, though many of the bones were lost in excavation. What? What are we reading here? This is destruction of our true history, right in front of our faces, right here in the narrative. We are shown the truth, and it wasn't until now that we could actually see it. How many of us have been taught about this location within our mainstream history classes that we all had to sit through? How many of us saw this sentence, that the bones were lost early in the excavation process? Time and time again, we find massive keys that show that there was a previous civilization here, and we are not being shown the truth. Our true past has been destroyed and hidden from all of us. These stories that we are all given are completely fabricated. The point of interest has already been messed with. Without us being able to confirm any of this, they blocked us all off from the site. Over and over, they do this all the time, all over the world. Now, let's just blow everybody's minds today. Are you ready to take this research further than before? Are you ready to show the world just how incredible this research really is? Here we go. A small percentage of the 7,000 bones. They just told us that they destroyed many of the bones. So a small percentage of the remaining bones have an abnormal cranial elongation, similar to the skulls from ancient Egypt, fueling speculation about the people who occupied this site. An incredible moment in our research that we were all here to see. Why do you think they destroyed many of the bones early in excavation? Why do you think they did this? They did this because most, if not all of those 7,000 skulls that were found at this site had abnormal cranial elongation that would take their ridiculous narrative and rip it right in half forever. This is why we were not allowed to see the site until these bones were all destroyed. The previous civilization, we've shown many times, had beings that do not look like us. We have shown it in the art that is still on the walls of some of these cathedrals and basilicas. Statues that we were just told were art. We were told they were fictional characters, myths. I don't believe it's a coincidence any longer. We are showing over and over that where we live is so much different than what we are told. And this is being exposed now. Absolutely incredible. We can even go back to episode 81, Statues in the Sky, at Mount Nemrut in Turkey. And you can now ask, why were the heads removed? And have a much clearer answer. Removing the heads that showed that these individuals had elongated skulls, keeping the ones that had a hat on to hide it. This is incredible. You can even go to episode 91. Same thing. The heads are all removed, all over the world. I believe this is what they were hiding now. The elongated heads of the past, going to every single continent before we got here, the reset, and chopped off the heads of these statues, making sure that this group of people were removed from our timeline, removing them from the narrative that we are all told. The structure is constructed entirely underground and consists of 3 superimposed levels, multiple levels yet again, with hallways and chambers interconnected through a series of steps
telling us that they think the upper level is thought to have been occupied first. No way. Really? I don't think any of us would have ever figured that one out. That the upper level is thought to have been occupied first. Ridiculous. The previous civilization were extremely advanced. The oracle room producing a powerful acoustic resonance from any vocalization made inside of it. The other room is decorated in a geometrical pattern of spirals. All of this is done by Fred Flintstone and his antler. No. Then we get the central structure. No bones were ever recovered from this room, we are told. And we all fully trust that now. Nope, not even close. And the best part of this site had to be the lower level, where they just have one sentence. The lower story contained no bones or offerings. Yeah, right. Before this research, we would have read that sentence and said, okay, yeah, nothing to see there. Not anymore. We know exactly what to look for. We understand how to read these stories, how to find their flaws. We understand that there were supposedly 7,000 skulls and bodies from the old world found in this underground complex, telling us that we weren't allowed to see this site, and then destroying most of the bones while excavating it. And then we would just trust this group when they tell us that the lower level contained no bones or offerings. Offerings. What a weird word that they chose there. And they also don't know how to spell the word story. What a mess. Absolutely insane what we have found today. It's so odd that this group is yet again so interested in our favorite locations, where visitors are recommended to book months before, as they don't let anybody go in there and see the place that they just found, also profiting off of it. According to heritagemalta.mt News, the National Museum of Archaeology has an exhibition titled Alien Headaches that have these skulls on display, calling these skulls aliens, of course, because they can't just say they're from the past. They have to say that they're from a fictional place, with zero evidence provided that that could even be a possibility, rather than just simply saying that their narrative is wrong and that there used to be humans or beings here where we all live that did not look the way that we currently all do. Their evolution theory would be thrown right in the garbage if this was true. So they have to come up with aliens. Understanding that we are not the only type of species to ever be here is key. Our true past, the true history, is not at all what we have been told. This place that we live had and may still have individuals here that have elongated skulls. Going on to say, a unique opportunity to observe the hypogeum skulls closely occurred in 2020 when nobody was allowed in, since these skulls are usually kept in the reserve collection and have not been publicly exhibited since 1995. Why are these skulls being hidden from the public still? I think we all know why. Oh, hey, by the way, everybody, yeah, there were actually some people here a few hundred years ago that we forgot to tell you about that had elongated skulls. So here's their bones, and yeah, we did destroy most of them in 1903 to 1909 when they didn't allow you to all watch us destroy them. Excavate the site. But trust us, the rest of the story is totally true, I promise. No. Until 1985, the skulls were on display at the National Museum of Archaeology. Strangely, Heritage Malta, the authority responsible for Malta's prehistoric narrative, a nice group that we can investigate later, this group removed the skulls from the public's view around 30 years ago. And since then, they have only been available to researchers by special permission. Now, why would somebody do that? Somebody that has nothing to hide. Why would they do this? Or do you think that they might have a lot to hide? Do they feel threatened that their ridiculous narratives would fall apart in seconds? You tell me. There is so much secrecy surrounding this site, these skulls, our history. It really is incredible when you know what to look for, like we do here. It completely opens the doors and lets the truth come flying through. We are also told that the most widely accepted explanation is that these skulls might have, maybe, well, they might have been the result of intentional cranial deformation, a practice known in various ancient cultures where the skull was bound or shaped during infancy to achieve a certain form. And this is easily disproven based on the amount of secrecy surrounding these skulls. If it was a simple, intentional cranial deformation, bound or shaping during infancy, if this was truly the case, we all know that they wouldn't be destroying them without the public, all of us, there to see it when it happens. They wouldn't be hiding them in the basement for the last 30 years. There is obviously something about these skulls, something that would prove that they weren't intentionally formed like this, and it was a natural occurrence. And they know this. And this is exactly why they keep them in the basement. Removed thousands of them from the site 125 years ago upon finding them. Since we have found so many flaws within the narrative, it really makes me want to go to the artificial cranium deformation research page. Is it possible that all or most of these skulls found around the world were not formed or bound, and instead, these were the skulls of the past? You can see that this is not just in one location. This is worldwide, from Hungary to Germany to Sogdia, which is present-day Turkmenistan, which we all know is a very interesting location. Elongated skulls found in the Nazca culture, finding them over in Mexico, Bolivia. Again, they are everywhere. I believe we have located the true meaning of these elongated skulls today. I believe that this was a group of individuals that were here, a part of the previous civilization, and today, they give us this alien excuse, hiding them from us, destroying them. It's very odd. The process that it would require to make a human skull do this is insane, including comb-like set of thin rods, binding the baby's forehead. I mean, do I need to go on? There is no chance that this was done all over the world. I believe this may have taken place in some cultures, to try and resemble the people of the past. But these skulls are not from those people. These skulls were the people of the past, a group from the previous civilization. It's all very interesting. You even find the elongated skulls on coins. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments. Now let's get back to this location of Hypogeum, the underground temple in Malta. A 3D laser scan was conducted, showing the 3 layers of this place, a 5,400 square foot site. A hypogeum is an underground chamber, and this is not the only one in the world. It's not even close. We find another one in central Italy, the hypogeum of the Volumnus family, telling us that it dates back to the 3rd century BC. But the date is, of course, uncertain, holding numerous subterranean tombs yet again. The tomb was supposedly used until the 1st century BC. This is what we're being told. Yet, they didn't even find it until 1840, rediscovering it on February 5th, 1840. And then knowing all about its history, of course. And this is totally believable. No. And you won't find anything odd in here, right? You won't find anything that's going to show that what we have been told is a massive lie. We aren't going to find any art. No depictions of the past. Oh, wait. What is this? Located inside of this underground temple, it just so happens that there are, yet again, depictions of angels. Angels, yet again. What are the odds that these same angels are depicted all over the world, all over buildings, and now they are found underneath the ground, under our feet, buried in the ground? This is still down there. If this is what they left us to see, the people that found it, could you even imagine what they really found in that place? Could you even imagine what our true past really is? Who was here? What was here? What is the meaning of this place that we all live today? Why are we finding elongated skulls and angels right under the dirt, right under our feet, hidden from the public? And are they still here today? The further that we go, the more that we find.